Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street XRP video here for us today. This conversation in particular is around the developments over the last few days and the white paper that was released through DEA, which Ripple had a significant interest in and also were mentioned and contributed to this white paper around CBDC development. The CBDC narrative is obviously heating up quite significantly throughout this year as we enter the final stages of piloting, which leads arguably to that November 2025 date, which we found a couple of years ago in relation to the RTGS system switching over to the new messaging and blockchain systems. Guys, we'll go into that to make sure you look at the other videos on the channel as and when you can. And don't forget to smash that subscribe button if you have not done so already. Welcome to the channel if you are new, and welcome back if you've been with us for some time. So let's go into this topic, guys. So we're going to first of all start with this. So this is the white paper. If you've got like a business email or anything like that, you can literally go through the Ripple website and download this yourselves. I'm not going to leave a link to this one just in case they tell me off or something, because I know they appreciate people coming in and taking our email data, etc., to bombard us with emails. But in general, what I can certainly do is put some of these other articles and links in, which kind of narrate the story a bit more. This conversation mainly is around the initiative of the CBDC working across Europe in particular, through the Digital Euro Association, DEA, so that's the reference to that point. But the topic in particular for this one from back in January was the relation really towards privacy and KYC and all these things. Now, in previous videos, we've had comments from people really against CBDCs and KYC, and I totally get it. I can see like some pros for CBDC, and I see arguably a lot of cons at the moment, in particular maybe things that haven't been answered. Too many questions and not enough answers in my mind. We covered here in the UK, for example, a digital wallet for our CBDC system is in fruition. We will know by June how that has progressed. We don't know the company or companies behind it yet, but we can kind of have a bit of a mindset around that, as to who those might be powering those wallets, powering those systems. The likes of Ripple potentially in that kind of framework. We know that Quant's heavily involved with the British CBDC through the likes of Digital Pound Foundation, even Electroneum, Avalanche, Algorand, all these big projects related to finance. But Ripple is no different in this instance. And we know that XRP has the ability to have the functionality of things like cross-border payments and the interoperable aspect as well, and utilizing platforms and companies, clouds, APIs like Quant, etc., to orchestrate this worldwide. And it's kind of almost, the narrative has not so much been focused really on America the last year or so. Obviously, the SEC situation lawsuit going on with XRP, I don't tend to talk about that much because it bores the hell out of me, to be honest. What will be, and when it will be when it will be. So we just sit tight and we just keep an eye on the markets every day in case there's a change of scene in that instance. But what's clearly going on in the background, irrelevant to the SEC, we've got a rest of the world to consider and have a market for. And Ripple's heavily involved with things like the Digital Pound Foundation here in the UK, particularly the Bank of England. And now we see obviously developments and conversations going around circles around the European CBDC. And I'm sure they are working in other regions around the world too. We've seen that through piloting. We've seen that through the projects like Project Helvetia, Jura, Icebreaker, Dunbar. These are all BIS related projects that are heavily influenced by CBDC frameworks and cross-border payments and cross-regional payments as well, to see how the frameworks work together. How is it interoperable? So this conversation around CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, is really heating up. I was at the Digital Pound event conference last week. Can't believe it was a week ago already. And we had the Bank of England head of tech there, Lavelle. We had Electroneum CEO and a few other panelists on there. The audience was pretty slick. I noticed a couple of people from Quant were there as well, and a few other companies. It's like, oh my god, Stardust! Like, people are here that we talk about or have seen on social media and stuff like that. And It was a bit awe-inspiring, to be honest, to be in that room. It was an invite only. But on that note, 24th of April, if you are free, London, there is the Digital Pound full day event. And the likes of Quant, Ripple, etc. will be there. And I think it's going to be a great opportunity if you have an interest or perhaps some questions relating to these kind of big topics to definitely attend that. The more the merrier, in my opinion, especially as, you know, it's going to be us, the users, the people at the bottom of the pile maybe, who are going to be using all this stuff. And we have an opportunity to talk about it. In grand scheme of things, I don't think it really matters. I think they're just going to go ahead and do what they want anyway. They just look like they're giving us a bit of freedom and the opportunity to make decisions or thought processes around this. So leading back to this conversation, we're talking here about the DLT aspect, the digital ledger technology that's going to be integrated with CBDCs, the programmable aspect of it, which is the questionable thing right now, is like how much privacy will, and elements will be in a CBDC. Will it control what we can and cannot spend our money on? Will it cap it? Will it do it on behaviors? Will it do it on that I haven't done this, so I cannot use my money? Or will it say to me, because of my carbon emissions, we're not letting you spend outside your 5-mile radius? And that's the programmable aspect of it, being linked with things like GPS tracking, DIDs, digital identities. I think Twitter, all these kind of platforms are DID platforms. They're certainly being transitioned into one, along with AI, etc. Don't do what they do what they say, or don't do what they say, do what they do. Whichever way around you want to look at that, the fact of the matter is, like, these companies, these people do have like the hidden narratives, and you will see these all coming to fruition over the next couple of years, no doubt about it. But Ripple is a massive company with fantastic opportunity in multitude of different areas within blockchain and DLT systems. But for me, as I said, I ignored the SEC situation right now. I've had my opinions on this. I've said it probably since day one when we started this channel, that I truly honestly believe they will try and diminish the dollar. And that's not necessarily America themselves, which I think they're doing a great job of anyway, but the world in general, because this new financial platform and system is an option. And this means that people go, oh, I don't need to use dollar as reserve currency, or the petrodollar. And we'll go on to that in a second, because there's been some really intricate information coming out in the last week of, well, I wouldn't even argue these are pilots anymore. It seems like some countries are just going ahead with it all anyway and just cracking on. I think countries like us here in the UK and potentially America are falling behind. We deem ourselves as technological advanced countries, and even at the DPF event last week, it was kind of like talked about that from a geopolitical perspective, the stance is reducing. And people don't look to us anymore. And there's countries and companies out there that are accelerating beyond way faster than we are. So, albeit we've got the innovation hubs here in London to try and progress things like CBDCs and other blockchain technologies, we're still a few years behind. I think a lot of countries have already gone way past that stage. So this conversation will still on go, guys. Key consideration for privacy, security, and digital assets. I want people to think about this. And I've always tried to keep this open on the channel. I try not to delve into like theories and stuff, but I've been talking about this a long time. And I want to correct people as well to ensure that people say to me, why am I promoting CBDCs and this, that, and the other? I'm not. What I am doing is gathering information, gathering the opportunity to make decisions, hopefully for myself, and to try and educate, or at least let people know the awareness of what is coming. And the potential complexities of CBDCs from a programmable perspective. If this goes ahead, what does this do for our society? What does this do for our potential freedom, if we've even got any left, to be honest? I think freedom went a long time ago. They give us the perception that we've got freedom, but I don't feel we do at all. Certainly within remits, obviously, if regulation and law and stuff, of course you have to try and abide by all these things. And hopefully, like myself and many of you out there do. But there's elements on there where you're sort of sitting there going, well, hang on a minute, I should have a choice on this matter or that matter, or why am I being dictated to? And before you know it, our box is getting smaller and smaller, and we're just stuck in our living room being forced to watch streaming or gaming and stuff to earn tokens, to then convert into money to be able to use, and then dictated to where we can and cannot use the money. Do you see what I mean? So when we're investing in these companies, looping this around as a topic, I find it quite fascinating because I've said this as well. I feel like we're investing in the demise of society, and it's quite weird. There's all this talk about governments and banks trying to buy XRP back for X amount of money. I'm not looking too much into that either because I think that's, I wouldn't say it's farcical, but I'd say it's definitely a possibility. It's a long shot. But then also it tells you, well, if they do that, what does it tell you? It kind of like makes you feel like you're back in the 1920s or whenever it was, where gold was deemed a very massive asset, and they tried to pay people or even fine people who didn't give their gold back to the estates. And I feel like it's maybe a potential similar principle in the sense that, oh, actually gold has value and it has a transactional value potentially. This is what maybe XRP is, and they've not supposed to have given it out to retail investors, and I think they've openly admitted that. Garlinghouse certainly has in a majority of different lawsuits and conferences and stuff, that actually this wasn't meant for retail people. It was meant for institution and commercial level banking. So these XRP tokens, they could potentially be wiped off and they start a new one. Who knows? Look what's happened over the last year or two with the ability to be able to do all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying that there's always weird possibilities from a technological perspective if they want to get around stuff. So it's an eye-opener. But my point being, from the whole point of investment perspective about demise of society, is that, well, we are encouraging investment essentially to an extent of holding and accumulating tokens or assets that are involved in CBD systems, and the ability to take more freedoms away from us and power these systems. But we could make money off it right now and try and avoid that situation. But then in the near future, I'm sort of sat there going, well, hang on a minute. They could just block us from all this. They could just block crypto in general. They could block everyone and say, well, we it's not a regulated space. You've done what you wanted to do. That's your fault. The banks are being very aggressive on whether we can even invest or send our money across these exchanges anymore. I'm just opening that cautious mentality, guys, that when we talk about like having an extended portfolio to mitigate potential risk of just going all in on one asset, it's the same with all different kinds of markets. Like to emphasize the investigation collectively and individually ourselves, to go, actually, where is my money invested in? Even with pensions, I was absolutely staggered that my old pension, I looked on their website and found the companies that they were invested in, i.e. things like Pfizer and Moderna. And I was like, this is disgraceful. I don't want to invest in those awful companies. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's research and stuff like that, and actually understanding where is your money being invested. Where do our banks send our money to? They make money off our money, and then when you try and get it back eventually, or there's a big crisis, they don't have your money to give back. All IOUs, right? So this conversation really is around the magnitude of Ripple and all these big companies, massive companies, that have a duty or responsibility, arguably, to define a strategy that works for both the commercial wholesale entities but also retail entities. But then you must understand, guys, that this is all about money, and actually where we sit in the food chain, we arguably don't have much of a voice anymore, and I think we're running out of time. And that's why I want people to understand CBDCs more, the conversation around it, and make decisions. A lot of you already have, and a lot of you already see the bad side of this and what could come. I see some good sides as well, and I think it's important to have that balanced mentality, but I totally understand and see the abilities of the dark side. So to reiterate, that Ripple XRP is a phenomenal asset to hold. It's going to have huge opportunities in the near future as we develop these technologies and platforms further and further, but to also understand what we're actually investing in, and to also potentially have that opportunity to choose our own path in the near future. I don't know really many other paths. I mean, you talk about Bitcoin being decentralized, but can that even be used in society if law and order suggests that any stores or anything like that who use Bitcoin or transfer Bitcoin or operate these kind of things will be shut down or fined? Do you see what I mean? So just keep an open mind to all of this, guys, as time goes by. But we plow on and we hope. is all we've got left. So I'm just touching up on this, guys. Back to my point about ditching the dollar and having the dollar as a universal currency or reserve currency. I feel these days are really numbered now. I've said this for a few years that this is going to happen. I had my thoughts around the Russia-China situation with America and other countries right now, in the sense that actually, based on the information that I know through certain people at high board levels of certain companies, that there is a turn off the tap situation because of the frameworks that China and Russia have that can really send a massive ripple effect across the world of how finance is done. And lo and behold, after saying that, I think I probably mentioned that about 6-7 months ago. Obviously, I can't say the person's name, but the important thing about all of this is that there was a reflection period to say that this is a massive possibility. And in this last week, guys, we're talking about China and Brazil striking deals to ditch the dollar for trade. We talked about trade finance more recently, about things like XDC, Quant, etc., Ripple in general as well. Whatever framework China is using, whether it's through their digital CBDC system, which they've been trialing for a long time and utilizing for a long time, and operating this system that actually we can do this ourselves, thanks. We don't need the dollar anymore, the intermediary or transfer of asset. We can just do this directly, save ourselves a load of money, save the economy, etc., etc. And these are like massive. China is Brazil's biggest trading partner with a record 150.5 billion in bilateral trade last year. That was last year alone, but more recently doing these trades directly with each other. And even on top of that, China more recently announcing first LNG, this is liquid nitrogen gas, trade in yuan. It doesn't state whether this is digital or not, but the point being is they are not using the petrodollar, i.e. the dollar dominance in general. They've done it directly to say, no, we're not using that anymore. What do you think that's going to do? It's going to irate everyone, and it's going to potentially make people realize that actually the power has massively shifted from a financial perspective, and so is the technology, and how far behind we all are. So while they're dithering around with Ripple and SEC and this stuff and whatnot, they're losing everything. They're losing the floor. They're losing meter by meter every single day. And this here, over the past year, Russia has turned to trade in yuan in the wake of the Western sanctions on its exports. Putin's only alternative to reduce exposure to the US dollar and euro. I mentioned this a couple of years ago. And it's a touchy subject, of course, this whole thing. But when I know something from people who are operating at a very high level in finance, and they're telling me these things, I'm going to listen to that more than I am the media, to be honest. And I don't really talk about it much. I just put the information out there, and people can make their own conclusions. Everyone's got a right to their own opinion and thoughts, absolutely, and I love that. But I know what I know, and it's concluding over these next few months exactly that path, exactly the path that we suggested. I'm not saying it's me personally. I'm suggesting that there's a lot of people out there that know what's going on, do not follow the media outlets and stuff like this, and lo and behold, here we are. That's the China UAE, giant markets. Again, here, just a re-mention of that in RMB yuan with United Arab Emirates. It's a huge amounts of money and trade opportunities, 65,000 tons of liquid nitrogen gas in general, absolutely huge. And across the board, guys, this is even bigger. You're talking about this. Central banks. We're talking about EU pushing the criminalization of physical cash with the new anti-money laundering laws, setting limits of cash payments and crypto transfers. Right, hang on a minute. If you're starting to do this, what are you going to do with your CBDCs? We've got here, in regards to the progression of CBDC piloting systems and trials, it's phenomenally increasing. I'd be very interested to see the reaction in Africa, because it's a huge entity, and they are powering forward right now, and fantastic to see more equality and more opportunity for people. But then who's controlling this over the top? Who's legislating this? The Bank of Russia's digital ruble pilot was originally scheduled for April the 1st, but now moving towards mid-April or early May. This is on its way. And also this one, cashless society, I've been going on about this for years. I was talking about this probably about 7 years ago, and it is a natural transition to try and move away from cash, to be honest, because it's more efficient and this, that, and the other. But you must dot connect. You must understand that once all this cash goes, it's all digitalized and it's all traceable, it's all trackable and potentially programmable. And it probably will be through a CBDC system. Australia, major Australian bank to end cash withdrawals from its branches as the end of paper notes looms. 30th of March. All of these articles and information and transfers of money are this week, conveniently. A lot of financial years end, but also we are about 18 months away, I believe, if my maths is correct, not far off that. November 2025, the whole entire world's RTGS system switches over. ISO 222 standardization messaging service behind finance is switching over right now. I think there's a deadline. I'm pretty sure it was either this month or the next month or two that every bank has to be on this. And this is part of the digitalization. It's part of the blockchain framework that's coming in. That's why I'm saying we're running out of time. We've been talking about it too long, and now it's important to understand that this is coming. On the Bank of England's website, I will try and leave a link in the description. There is an opportunity for people to look at the consensus and also provide their opinions, thoughts, arguments, concerns, positivity, whatever you have as a opinion or thought about CBDCs and stuff. The opportunity is there. You will not find this on the news. You will not find this in your media, your newspapers, your streaming platforms or anything like that. They haven't even told anyone. But what they can do in a few months' time is say, well, we gave you the opportunity to look at it. We may not have told you, but you've had the opportunity. And unless you're following the Bank of England, which I'm pretty sure 90% of the people couldn't care less about what the Bank of England does, and they're following, celebrities and stuff on Twitter and stuff anyway, instead, they're not going to know. So I'll leave a link in there at the top of the description for you guys to have a look at that. It's really important. There's an opportunity here for us to voice some opinions. Whether those opinions go anywhere, the fact of the matter is we tried and we at least did something or looked at the opportunities or what is to come. That's all I can say. I just hope this video is important to people from that spectrum to see that we're running out of time and I don't know what's going to come. And we have to prepare ourselves in various different avenues and opportunities and the way we invest our assets. Where is our money actually concluded and what in and what even are these technologies? It's really important for everyone to know. So guys, I'm going to wrap that bit up there. Let's just jump straight into the XRP price point here. It's had a really good rally over the last month, 42% up on the month and 20% up on the week. It probably could have been higher if we didn't count the retraction that we had in the last couple of days. But I just wanted to pull this out in a bit of a historic format of XRP. I was actually buying XRP back down here around 12 cents back in March 2020. I did a lot of accumulation in that year. Not so much at these high regions, but I was buying around these sort of 50 odd cent marks, and certainly more recently when it was hitting around those sort of 35, 37 cents and bouncing around. Now we've had this upward trend. This is a couple of reasons. There's obviously rumours that as usual, the SEC lawsuit is coming to an end. I've just changed the way these charts bars look, by the way, because this gives the high, low and open in a bit more clarity and detail. So we can start identifying a bit more involvement as to where the markets may be going with these. So you've got loads of variables, you've got macro events to consider every day, and conclusions of things like the report, the white paper that's come out. That's going to excite people and go, oh, I must buy Ripple, as well as all the SEC things going on and everything. So it's a bit hard to dictate this, but what we can do is at least look at the data, certainly from the fib level perspectives. What I've done here is taken still these lower regions and more recently some of the high regions, but I've also got the long-term fib tracement levels in here as well, which has taken the really bottom levels and the highest levels that we had in the past. And if you look, it's really interesting because we've had two areas here, September 2022 and literally the last couple of days penetrating that long-term fib level. If we look at the macro level, it's already hit as well a second line. So if I just move that slightly, and this is taken one of the most recent top lines as well, you can see there's some resistance. So we can argue there's a couple of opportunities here. First and foremost, I want to pull this out a bit more and showcase this particular area here. So we're just taking this area where it's currently now and one of the most previous high points back here in March 22, a year ago pretty much, okay? So if I just transfer that across, and there's a reason I'm doing that, and I'm going to remove it in a second anyway because I've got a million lines here now. You could argue that on the upward trend, obviously you're going to have a few cycles in between like you've had here, but there's an argument to say that the next target up is around 65 cents, okay? At the moment, we've resisted that. We've come down. We've bounced off this area here around 55. So my conclusion of this, we'll probably get some stability. There could be another upward trend depending on news and things that come out in the next week or two. We've got financial announcements, etc. this week and next week. Here in the UK, our end of tax years, all of these things come into play. People might have spare cash, capital gains to chuck into the accounts. It could reach these areas for sure. But on the way down, if there's stability and people lose confidence or see that there's nothing really happening, it becomes boring. Literally, the word boring is an obvious one. We can start ploughing in opportunities on the way down. Obviously, probably as we're around 53 cents, you kind of argue in your head that 50 cents is a more natural position to look at anyway. But it's kind of confirmed in two areas here. Well, actually more than two. More recently, back here in November, October last year, respectively, but also a lot of traction around these areas in the past. So from a long-term perspective, this makes sense. So that's definitely an opportunity for potential accumulation. But if you look, you see these areas have gone up in stages very quickly. So in my mind, as a long-term perspective, these can also trigger opportunities to come down quicker as well. So you see here, we had this big upward influx here in September, taking us all the way up here to 55 cents again, where we're currently seeing resistance. Bubble effect, as I said, bit of confidence, stability, and then, oh, nothing's really happening. I've lost interest. A month passes, financial, etc. reasons, and we come back down. And quickly as well. So it could have a potentially a similar pattern. That's why I've got buy orders. I'm not touching the 50 cent one, to be honest. I'm more interested at these lower regions. I still think anything under 50 cents, even $1, to be honest, for Ripple is fantastic. But the lower, the better. I'm not fascinated by 50 cents. I think there's going to be some resistance and support at that area for sure. But that's one of my trigger points, and I've still got these buy orders still at lower 30 cent levels and 35. I think they're always like great bite points. It's roughly around here, I think, just over 35 cents, about 36. So there's some drop off points here, but for those that are day trading or have opportunities to spend time on lower leveled market trends, you can see here there's opportunities on the way down. But the way up is going to be a bit more difficult because you're talking about a big, substantial area for us to cover. If that does happen, I don't necessarily, and it's exciting, obviously, and people will trade it and make opportunities, so great for them. But I personally don't want to see a big jump up to here because that usually indicates we'll start flopping a bit downwards. But the big but is who knows what happens tomorrow, guys. Like anything can happen at any day. There could be a switch around of cuts of interest rates and all these kind of things over the next few months. Stabilization, who knows? But that's why I'm pinpointing both areas. And it's so easy for people like myself or other YouTubers to sit there and go, oh, it might go up, it might go down. That's obvious. But more importantly is where are the areas of interest? I know it's going to go up or down. It's not rocket science. But where are these opportunities? So hopefully that gives a bit of an indication. From a buying perspective, and the reason, again, I'm not touching the 50 cent mark is because on the RSI, we're very high at the moment. 71 on the 14-day, 66 on the 28-day, so on the month, essentially. The 90-day as a spectrum on 3 months is on 56. I'm referring to down here. These are the relative strength indexes, give you a bit more of an indication on top of what we see visually in the chart as to, obviously, if I go and buy now on that 40-day within a 2-week period, there's a high chance that it's not finished in those high areas and the gains won't be so significant. But if this starts dropping down to, say, back down to the 40, 35s or 45s, that's kind of half to where it is now. But also, not just visually, you can suggest that actually there's a bit more of an upward area than there is a downward. So you can start accumulating and DCAing in that momentum and psychology. So there's just a few pointers if you're new to the channel or you've not been used to those kind of things before. That's what I've used for a long time and it's worked very well. But I'm a long-term holder of XRP. I'm not selling XRP until at least $5 and that's going to be a small percentage batch because I do think this has huge value. What happens between now and when that happens? Are they going to buy it back? The SEC, all this stuff, who knows? You just got to apply your methodology into what you see now. So that's kind of wrapping up this video, guys. I'm sorry if it's a longer one than usual, but I just think it's really important to discuss all of this in high detail. And hopefully someone's learned something or at least thought about what's to come or what do I need to do as a person or investments to see there and what's to come. It's really important, and educate others as well that there's a path choice coming very soon. the path is slowly disappearing, and what are we going to do about it? So let me know in the comments below all your thoughts and feelings about CBDCs, the infrastructure Ripple, what's going on with the SEC, what's going on with this euro dollar implementations as well, and all this stuff about China, Russia, rubles, digital transfer of money, the removal of the digital dollar or dollar as a reserve currency in general. I want to know everything out there of your minds and thoughts about all this. Leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you indeed in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.